In the heart of the Arizona desert, where the sun beats down relentlessly and the landscape stretches out in a seemingly endless expanse of sand and rock, a shocking case is unfolding that has captured the attention of the nation and sparked intense debate. Aaron Gunches, a man sentenced to death for a heinous crime, is making an unprecedented demand. He is asking the state to expedite his execution, to end his life as soon as possible. This request is not just a simple plea. It is a desperate cry from a man who feels that the endless wait on death row is a form of psychological torture. The unusual nature of Gunch's request has ignited a firestorm of debate about justice, morality, and the very purpose of punishment. People are taking to the streets, holding signs and chanting slogans, while legal experts and ethicists are locked in heated discussions. Aaron Gunches was convicted of murder in 2004, a crime that shocked the community and left a family devastated. He shot and killed Ted Price, the ex-husband of his girlfriend, in a moment of rage and violence. The crime scene was a grim tableau of tragedy, with police tape fluttering in the wind and the flashing lights of patrol cars illuminating the night. The evidence was clear, and Gunches was swiftly brought to justice. After spending years on death row, isolated and tormented by the passage of time, Gunches has reached a breaking point. He has decided that he no longer wants to live, that the endless waiting is a fate worse than death itself. He argues that the endless waiting, the uncertainty, and the constant anticipation of death is a kind of torture that no human being should have to endure. The ticking of the clock in his cell is a constant reminder of his impending fate, and it has driven him to the edge of despair. This case is about much more than one man's fate. It has forced society to confront uncomfortable questions about the death penalty, about the nature of justice, and about the limits of human endurance. It forces us to ask whether it is ever right for the state to take a life, and what it means when the condemned themselves are asking for death. The scales of justice are tipping, and the debate is more heated than ever. Is it ever right for the state to take a life? And if so, under what circumstances? These are questions that have no easy answers, and they are at the heart of the debate surrounding Aaron Gunch's case. As the legal battles continue and the public debate rages on, one thing is clear: this case has brought to light the deep and often painful complexities of the death penalty, and it has left us all wondering what happens when the condemned want to die. The death penalty has always been a controversial issue, sparking intense debates and emotional responses from people on both sides of the argument. This form of punishment, which involves the state executing a person as retribution for a crime, raises numerous questions about justice, morality, and the role of government in taking a life. There are strong arguments on both sides. Supporters of the death penalty argue that it serves as a deterrent to serious crimes such as murder and acts of terrorism. They believe that the fear of facing the ultimate punishment will prevent individuals from committing heinous acts. Those who support capital punishment often argue that it brings justice to victims and their families. They feel that the death penalty provides a sense of closure and retribution, ensuring that the perpetrator cannot harm anyone else. They believe that some crimes are so horrific that the only fitting punishment is death. For them, the death penalty is a necessary tool to maintain law and order, and to show that society will not tolerate the most egregious offenses. Opponents of the death penalty raise serious moral and ethical concerns. They argue that taking a life, even that of a convicted criminal, is inherently wrong and goes against the principles of human rights and dignity. They say that killing is always wrong, even when done by the state. This perspective is often rooted in religious or philosophical beliefs that emphasize the sanctity of life. They point out that the justice system is not perfect. Mistakes can and do happen, and the risk of executing an innocent person is a grave concern. The irreversible nature of the death penalty means that any error cannot be corrected. The possibility of executing an innocent person is a terrifying thought. Additionally, opponents argue that the death penalty does not effectively deter crime. Studies have shown that states with the death penalty do not necessarily have lower crime rates than those without it. They also argue that the death penalty does not deter crime and that life in prison is a more just and humane punishment. Life imprisonment without the possibility of parole ensures that the individual is removed from society and cannot cause further harm, while still allowing for the possibility of rehabilitation and redemption. The case of Aaron Gunches has brought Arizona's troubled history with executions into sharp focus. The state has a long and controversial past when it comes to capital punishment. Since the 1990s, Arizona has struggled to carry out executions in a way that is both legal and humane. The state has faced numerous legal challenges to its lethal injection protocols. There have been concerns about the drugs used in executions. Some argue that these drugs cause unnecessary pain and suffering, violating the constitutional ban on cruel and unusual punishment. Gunch's case highlights a major problem with the death penalty in America: the endless delays. People can spend decades on death row, waiting for their sentences to be carried out. These delays are often caused by legal challenges and appeals, a necessary part of ensuring that justice is served. However, critics argue that these delays create a system that is broken and inhumane. They say that keeping people in limbo for years on end is a form of psychological torture. This raises serious questions about the fairness and effectiveness of the death penalty.
Check one, check.
In response to these concerns, Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs has ordered a halt to all executions in the state. She wants to ensure that Arizona's execution protocols are legal, humane, and free from error. This decision has been praised by death penalty opponents, who see it as a step in the right direction. However, it has also drawn criticism from those who believe that the death penalty is a just punishment. The debate over the future of capital punishment in Arizona is far from over. Section 6. Ted Price, Remembering the Victim. In the midst of this complex legal and ethical debate, it is important to remember the victim in this case, Ted Price. Price was a father, a grandfather, and a friend. His life was cut short by a senseless act of violence. His family has lived with the pain of his loss for almost 20 years. They deserve justice and closure. However, the question remains, will the death penalty truly bring healing? Or will it only perpetuate a cycle of violence and pain? Section 7. A cry for justice or a troubled conscience. Aaron Gunch's desire to end his life raises more questions than answers. Is his request a genuine cry for justice, an acknowledgement of the severity of his crime, or is it the product of a troubled mind, driven to despair by years of confinement on death row? Some argue that his willingness to die shows remorse, a desire to take responsibility for his actions. Others see it as a sign of a system that is broken, one that can push even the guilty to the brink of despair. Section 8. The Future of Capital Punishment in Arizona. The case of Aaron Gunch's has placed Arizona at a crossroads. The state must decide how it will move forward with the death penalty. Will it address the concerns about its execution protocols and continue to carry out death sentences? Or will it choose a different path, one that prioritizes rehabilitation and redemption over retribution? The eyes of the nation are upon Arizona as it grapples with these profound questions. Section 9. Seeking Answers in the Heart of Justice. The case of Aaron Gunch's is a stark reminder that the death penalty is not simply an abstract legal concept. It is a real and tangible issue that affects the lives of individuals, families, and communities. The gravity of this punishment cannot be overstated, as it involves the ultimate deprivation of life by the state. This case forces us to confront the ethical and moral dimensions of capital punishment, and to question whether it truly serves the cause of justice. It is a matter of life and death, one that touches upon the deepest questions of morality, justice, and the human spirit. The death penalty raises profound questions about the value we place on human life and the principles that underpin our legal system. It challenges us to consider whether retribution and deterrence are sufficient justifications for taking a life, and whether there are more humane and effective alternatives to addressing serious crimes. As we grapple with this complex issue, we must seek answers that are grounded in compassion, wisdom, and a commitment to the dignity of all human life. This means engaging in thoughtful and informed discussions, listening to diverse perspectives, and being open to the possibility of change. It requires us to look beyond the immediate circumstances of individual cases and to consider the broader implications for our society and our shared humanity. Only then can we hope to create a system of justice that truly reflects our values as a society, a justice system that is fair, equitable, and just for all. This involves not only legal reforms but also a cultural shift in how we view justice and punishment. It calls for a collective effort to build a society where every individual is treated with respect and dignity, and where the pursuit of justice is guided by principles of fairness and humanity. The path forward is not easy, but it is a journey we must take together. It is a journey that requires courage, empathy, and a steadfast commitment to the principles of justice and human rights. By working together, we can create a future where the justice system is a true reflection of our highest ideals and where every person is afforded the dignity and respect they deserve.